right now, people don't have, that is, institutional investors don't have any easy way to support Bitcoin or buy it in an economically responsible fashion. And so they just stay out. When you see these spot ETFs get put in place, you're going to be creating the equivalent of a 6-lane superhighway between Wall Street and Bitcoin. And now you're going to see billions and billions of dollars flow. In some cases, billions a week. In some cases, could be billions a day. And until you see it, you won't see any capital flow from those institutions. It's trapped.
With the price of Bitcoin soaring to just below $34,000, many investors are now taking notice. With the approval of BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF at the forefront of the crypto landscape, MicroStrategy co-founder Michael Saylor emerges as one of the most passionate and vocal champions of the world's leading cryptocurrency asset. His company boasts an impressive holding of over 158,000 Bitcoin, making it the world's largest publicly traded Bitcoin holder. He predicts that 2023 will be the year we see Bitcoin explode, and to Saylor, Bitcoin represents far more than just a means of escaping the continuous devaluation of the US dollar. He sees it as the bedrock of the entire digital asset ecosystem, a rock-solid foundation upon which everything in the crypto world has been built upon. In a recent interview, Saylor discusses his thoughts on the ongoing impact Bitcoin has on the crypto market. He believes the Bitcoin rally is not merely a reflection of mainstream adoption. Instead, it's cryptocurrency investors acknowledging the place of the leading crypto asset in the market. Saylor believes that the greater rally for mainstream investors is coming. Also, we have just partnered with our friends over at Jamie Tree Finance, who have just launched a daily 5-minute crypto newsletter. It's a fantastic analysis of on-chain crypto data and breakdowns, and the best part, it's absolutely free. So to give out as much value to you as possible, we're sending out a 5-minute daily newsletter which will cover expert predictions, breakdowns of on-chain crypto data, and any breaking news that you need to know, all in a nutshell. Click the first link in the description and enter your email to join over 5,000 others in becoming a better crypto investor right now.
You know, I've said many times before, I've said, if it's not going to zero, it's going to 1 million. The reason it would go to zero is it's illegitimate or getting banned. And so the question is it illegitimate? Well, obviously not. It's an asset without an issuer. It's the world's first digital commodity and the greatest digital commodity. It's the only globally acknowledged digital commodity in the world. There is controversy about everything else. Bitcoin is the one non-controversial thing. So it is a legitimate asset. And is it being banned? Obviously not. The Chinese haven't banned it. It's deemed property in China. The Russians haven't banned it. It's property in Russia. The Americans haven't banned it. It's property in America. All of the controversy in our marketplace right now is surrounding crypto exchanges, the trading of unregistered securities, other tokens, and stable coins. And then the usage of these crypto tokens as a high-speed dollar substitute, a currency substitute. There's lots of controversy there. There will continue to be controversy. It is unclear how all that sorts itself out, except for the fact that there are two great conclusions you can come to over the past 24 months. Wall Street, the regulators, and the mainstream investment community endorses Bitcoin and appreciates Bitcoin. And everybody's skeptical of the rest of the crypto ecosystem, right? Bitcoin, yes. Crypto, not so sure, right? So that's where we are right now. I have met with lots of executives from these companies that are bringing spot ETFs to market. I can tell you for a fact, nobody wants to fix Bitcoin. Nobody wants to change Bitcoin. They've approached it with humility. They've approached it with grace. Their view is Bitcoin is a digital asset. People in the world seem to want it. We should do our part to provide services to make it easy to acquire and hold Bitcoin. Now, In time, right? The first and easiest step and the most critical step is that spot ETF, because that'll open up the super highway for it's like a power line for hundreds of billions of dollars of capital to flow into the ecosystem. But eventually, Google and Apple will embrace Bitcoin. And when Google or Apple embraces Bitcoin and Apple puts some sort of Bitcoin signing device into the iPhone, there will be some people that will be skeptical and they will say, oh, we could never trust Apple. And that's reasonable. And other people will say, oh, well, it's an option for the masses that don't know how to, operate their own hardware wallet. And there'll be a debate. And then there'll be an avalanche, and then Apple, the Amazon will do something, and then Microsoft will build it into their browser, and then people will hate that. And then some other company will come up with a better Bitcoin-only one, and we'll like that. And maybe they'll succeed, and they'll grow. It'd be 10 or 100x, and maybe they won't. And then maybe at some point we'll wake up, and there'll be $4 billion, which will be of 4 billion people, and they will self-custody some amount of their own Bitcoin. And then they will have other Bitcoin that will be in an ETF in their retirement plan because their employer required that they actually have their retirement plan with a securities custodian. And we should embrace everybody that supports Bitcoin, however they support Bitcoin. You won't agree with them. Maybe you won't like that nation, and you won't like that company, and you won't like that money manager. And you will always have the option to do your own thing, and that's what makes Bitcoin beautiful.
Michael Saylor believes that while some investors were initially uninterested in Bitcoin and gravitated toward other cryptocurrencies, the Bitcoin ETF has caused a massive influx of investors to return to the dominant crypto asset. He highlights Bitcoin's position as the reliable, trusted network that stands the test of time when other assets fail to provide stability.
The most important one, the one that's going to dominate this cycle, is going to be the spot ETF, because futures ETFs are just literally defective, right? If I said I'm going to charge you a 10% fee per year to invest your money, like your money's gone in 7 years, right? I'm just taking it all, right? So that makes no sense. So the spot ETF is going to be critical. It's going to solve the problem of how do I custody the Bitcoin? Most of these companies and investors, if they want to establish their own custody program, it's very scary, right? Have you noticed how many custodians have failed? And the issue is, how do I find an institutional grade custodian? And okay, well, you could say, like, you should self-custody. Well, how does, who at Microsoft is supposed to self-custody? Like, do you want to you're going to give $100 billion of Bitcoin to the CFO and have the CFO walk around with the private keys? Like, who wants that job, right? Like, how are you going to do multi-sig? Well, which 3 people at Microsoft, right? So it becomes a question, and it takes them a year or 2 years to answer the question. And is it possible? Sure it is. It just takes 2 or 3 years. And so if we want mass adoption, we have to solve the problem of custody, and then we have to solve the problem of compliance, right? If I'm an investor and I have $10 billion of capital and I want to buy $100 million worth of Apple stock, I can do it in 30 seconds via BlackRock or via one of my major money managers. And I don't even have to come up with $100 million. I could have a nickel, make a phone call and say, buy $100 million of Apple stock, put the phone down, and have all the money at the end of the day without putting up in cash. And it would be my bank, like JP Morgan, that would front me the money. So you see, it's completely financeable, no money down. I can do it in 30 seconds. And then it flows into my systems, like my accounting system, my compensation system. When Apple stock doubles, the portfolio manager that actually made the buy wants to get paid. So how do I attribute the success of the investment to the person that made the investment when it's changing every minute of the day? How do I pay taxes on it? How do I make sure I don't have a Nick Leeson situation where one portfolio manager makes a $10 billion bet and bankrupts the entire firm, right? So these are all pedestrian problems, but they're solved by that spot ETF plugged into the money manager. That's going to be the number one driver, right? And that's going to dwarf everything else in the near term.
Saylor believes in the long-term potential of Bitcoin as an investment, despite the current scrutiny of crypto by the SEC. He says those with crypto assets are likely to trade them for Bitcoin anyways, which is seen as the most trustworthy crypto asset and network. Saylor notes that Bitcoin has been moving up about 50% a year on average over the last 3 years, and the key to investing in Bitcoin is to be able to hold on to it and stomach the volatility despite some short-term losses. MicroStrategy continues to remain the largest holding of Bitcoin in the world. Saylor remains bullish on Bitcoin and echoes the sentiment of many high-profile investors, saying that the crash of the US dollar will lead to a rally in Bitcoin. Saylor suggests investing in scarce, profitable assets that are free from counterparty risk. He notes that the global demand for a stable digital currency is growing as countries are facing currency instability. He believes that Bitcoin will thrive as a valuable asset because it's validated and supports an entire class of assets. While strong nation-states may still have fiat currencies, the currencies of most countries will eventually fail. He advises against holding cash that rapidly loses 20% of its value per year, and believes that maintaining generational wealth requires purchasing desirable assets with low-cost money. What do you think about the latest interview with Michael Saylor? And when will we see the massive rally in 2023? Comment down below. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This is Library of Wealth. We'll see you in the next video.